I would like you guys to come with me for a little bit of an imaginary exercise, a mind game, if you will, that I happened upon one morning while going to work, while not filming. I was thinking about a conversation I might have with my son, who isn't born yet, but let's imagine that he's 10 years old and he comes from school with something on his mind. And at the dinner table, he asks me, "Daddy, why do some people have more than others? You know Kenny's family, they can't afford much. We have a school trip coming on and they can't afford to send him to that school trip, and at lunch at cafeteria he can't buy all that he wants." So that's got me into thinking, why do some people have more than others? That's a difficult question, and how would I explain to a 10-year-old this concept? I'm going to give it a try. Well, Aaron, I'm the name and Aaron. You know, that's a very deep and complicated question, and I think it's a combination of things. So, a combination of factors that sort of interact in a very weird way. One of the reasons is parents. You see, parents want the best for their children, so by and large they tend to give them most of their resources. So where you start affects quite a lot of what you have. Secondly would be capacity. You know, and capacity could be split into two. It could be natural capacity and it could be developed capacity. You know Tanya in class, she's good at math, but she never seems to study all that much. She just seems to get it from class. That's an example of high natural capacity. But you know Tony, he's not as good as Tanya. He needs to study a lot. He needs to do a lot of homework. But because he does, he's almost at the same level as Tanya. That's an example of, let's say, medium natural capacity, but a lot more development on it. So that influences how much you have. But you know, last winter, when there was a snow day and you wouldn't go to school, happy times for all, that's an example of the environment that influences how much you have. So, for example, there may be a drought one year and affects how much food there is, and that affects how much people have. And finally, there's other people's decisions. You know, for example, that if your teacher comes to school in a bad mood, he may decide to test you and give you a poorer grade were he in a good mood. Similar things affect us as well. All these things combine to the answer why Kenny's family has less than us, and why some people have more or less than the others. But now, my son, I would like to pose a question to you, or rather, let's try and answer it together. How many of these things that I just spoke about can you control? Can you control how much your parents have and how much they give to you? Very little, not really. Can you control how much natural capacity you have? No, not at all. You can control to a certain extent how much you develop your natural capacity, but even that, depending on what you do, requires access to resources and opportunity to train up. Can you control the environment? Yes and no. By and large, no. Can you control, what was the last thing? Other people's decisions? No. In reality, you can have a limited control on each of those things, to the extent that you're able to talk to others and convince them, coerce or manipulate them. You can influence people's decisions that are directly around you, but not the vast majority of people's decisions. So you only have a very small sliver of control over that. You can perhaps develop a better relationship with your parents so they could give you more as an allowance or as an inheritance, but again, a small sliver of control. So if we think about Kenny, and if you, Aaron, are tempted to make fun of him because he's poor. And you're also maybe tempted to think that you deserve all the nice things in your life. May I suggest that we examine that very closely and perhaps understand that Kenny and you are just there mostly by luck or other things that you can't control. That's it. Thank you.